There was a lot of burlesque coming back last fall, and there was a lot of people really, really optimistic that festivals might come back one day. A lot of festivals were announcing that applications were coming out and that they're back and better than ever and welcome burlesque back. And there's a lot of people who were incredibly excited to finally travel again for burlesque, or finally get to connect with people they may not have seen on the other side of the country or North America or on another continent for burlesque in ages. There was this whole buzz that burlesque is coming back. Now things have shut down a little bit more again. You are well aware of all of the dynamics coming around with burlesque and the pandemic and never knowing anything. But just in case festivals come back at any point, I'm making this video anyways, so that you, if you've never been to a festival, can have a little bit of insight. So the big question, first of all, is what is a burlesque festival? If you've never been to a festival before and you've only seen community shows or you've only performed in local shows, it can be difficult to really grasp the scale of a burlesque festival and what makes it different from any other show that you may have seen. The very basic understanding of a burlesque festival is a multi-day event of burlesque with burlesque performers who come in both locally and internationally. They're often broken up into showcases. It's about bringing performers together, not only highlighting your local scene, which we tend to see in community shows with maybe one headliner, but with a festival you tend to see 2 or 3 headliners and workshops involved. It will have things like a meet and greet, and it will have an after party for cast and performers and staff and producers. It is an event. It is beyond a burlesque performance or a show now. It is beyond just applying and talking to producers and networking. A burlesque festival is where we tend to see burlesque really coming together. It really helps to begin to develop an understanding of the burlesque industry today. Every festival is going to be incredibly different. There have been some that have been around for 15 or 20 years. There are some that are always popping up constantly and have only been around for maybe a couple of years. Other elements that a lot of festivals tend to have is competitions, whether those are serious big titles like the Burlesque Hall of Fame with Miss Exotic World or the King of Burlesque or Best Duet or the Bunny competition in Edmonton. There's also lots of festivals who have really fun competitions that are not quite as serious with the title, but rather is just for fun, and maybe it's something about someone who's voted in with the best costuming skills or the best bouquet of your local scene. A lot of festivals also have zero competition elements, and it's all about the showcasing of burlesque from a bigger perspective. And that's what's so great about festivals. It's really about bringing community together, and often there's a lot of people who do burlesque who are not able to leave their local scene, whether they can't afford it or they're not ready yet, or it's just they're not interested in it. Burlesque is so big, and it's so important that we can experience burlesque outside of our own local scenes to avoid any repetition or to get inspired, so that we can see what avenues we can do with burlesque or where it's innovating today. If you are not able to leave your local city, if you want to leave your town and just see it, it can be a really great way to see international headliners coming to your stage, so you don't have to leave, and instead you just have to either volunteer or buy a ticket to attend and watch. A bunch of different things like networking. In addition to their headliners, a lot of festivals will actually have a burlesque legend attend and perform with their communities. It will be a new invited legend and new headliners coming in each year to really showcase not only burlesque today, but where it has been and where it's come from, and really paying ode to the trailblazers and the individuals who made burlesque what it is today. We also see merchandise that's often for sale. Regular community shows often have merchandise for sale from local performers. The options are a lot bigger for festivals. Depending on where the festival is, they'll have multiple venues even, so they can really rotate what their scene looks like, or maybe they'll have the same venue but they'll be able to showcase different spots for the after party or for the meet and greet party or anything that they have, just so that they can welcome performers into their community and say, this is what burlesque looks like here. They often have a massive amount of volunteers behind them as well, so they are really a community event again. There's often also different tiers, so instead of a regular show where you might have regular seating and then maybe VIP, often there might be 2 or 3 or 4 different tiers for people to buy tickets. Often with festivals, sometimes it will be one producer putting it on or a couple producers. A lot of festivals actually have a team who put it on, and they'll have specific people who are the producers, and they'll have people who specifically focus on sponsorships and getting sponsorships or advertising or media or diversity and the artistic direction, all of these different things that really make a production come together. Because a festival's on a much bigger scale, you're going to have a much bigger influence of these lead team people who are putting this festival forward. And so, as I said, burlesque is a lot different when you go into festivals. As soon as you decide as a performer that you are ready, you have performed in all of these shows, you feel confident with your stage presence, or you feel incredibly confident with your acts, and you want to get out and you want to start performing, what do you do and how do you get into a festival? A lot of us are used to application processes in burlesque for applying to community shows, but usually there's not too much to it. With a festival, it can be a huge process to apply, and so most festivals will have an application process that's open for anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks. Often with festivals, there's going to be around 20 to 40-ish spots for people to perform in. Festivals will receive 100 or more applications. It can be incredibly intimidating to apply to your first festival. When you apply to a regular show, a community show, quite often you just apply and that's it. With festivals, often you have to pay to apply. Often that's going to be money that helps producers raise money. Because festivals are bigger shows than regular community shows, they're going to cost 3 or 4 times more than a regular show. With those application fees, those often help the producers to pay for the venues and pay for the performers and pay for everything that those costs come up with. And so because there's a much more limited space for performers and many more performers applying to festivals, there's often a much bigger process for hiring those performers and inviting performers to those stages. Quite often you might see panels that are performers or adjudicators who might be involved with that festival directly, or maybe they're not, or maybe sometimes it will just be the team of producers if there's multiple producers to see how they want things to come together. Unlike most shows where it might take a week or so for you to hear back from applying for a show after the closing date, with festivals it might take up to a month to hear back, or a couple months. Especially now, I know there's a lot of festivals that have been waiting to see how things are closer to the festival date, and they might give you a little bit less notice. But with festivals, it is a bigger process, and so just be aware of that and don't let that intimidate you. You are not the only person who is applying and possibly feeling these really anxious feelings of imposter syndrome. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're brand new or if you've been performing for quite a while. Everyone belongs in festivals, and even if you don't get in, it's going to be a learning experience for you, which is just another step for you to take. And then there's other people who can only afford to apply to 3 or 2 festivals or 1 festival in a year. And when it comes to expenses, in addition to applying to festivals, festivals are often something that's very performer run or managed. Because you're applying, it is your responsibility to pay for travel and accommodations and food and all these different extra costs. Festivals are something that I personally make sure I save money for if I plan on applying for them. There's definitely ways to make festivals more affordable. Often with festival producers, they have connected and networked their butts off to get what they can, as much as they can, for their performers. So maybe they'll have coupons in your swag bag so you can get food at certain local restaurants for cheaper. Often you'll see hotels that have partnered with those festivals so you can get discounted hotel rates. Some festivals, their performers will have local performers who can be available for billeting. Maybe if you know you're going to travel to New York or Toronto or any other festivals, if you know somebody who you're already friends with, that's also fantastic. I've been to multiple festivals, and even with BurlieCon and attending to watch Burlesque Hall of Fame, I often go with people I know. There's people I either know locally who've gone to the same festivals as me, or I know other friends of mine got into the same festivals. We just shared hotel rooms. Also, sometimes I've just put a call up, be like, hey, I have a hotel room. Is there anybody who's performing in the festival who wants to share and split costs? That can be a fantastic way to save a lot of money if you can. So a lot of festivals actually have really great initiatives in place. There's often a lot of festivals that often offer sponsorships or scholarships, or they'll have discounted application prices for specific performers, specifically from marginalized communities. And with these costs costs. Some festivals might have an honorarium for performers. There's a lot of festivals that don't pay their performers. That's kind of just something that a lot of performers know and expect, as a lot of us don't expect payment unless we're headlining. But there are a lot of festivals as well that take the performers into consideration and try to help offset those costs as much as they can. It won't be the same as a full rate of a show that you might perform in locally or in a community show, but it is something, and it is something to help you either cover even just like a couple meals for you while you're in town. I already mentioned that they have merchandise often on a much bigger scale at festivals, and so a lot of performers will take advantage of that and make sure to bring as much as they can that they already have for merchandise, and then you can sell, whether they're doing a festival or if they're just performing in an outside city. That's how you make money, is you bring merchandise and you sell it, or you offer workshops as well. A lot of festivals will have workshops involved over the weekend, and that's another way that performers can make a little bit more money to help offset some of those travel costs, to have something prepared that you're confident in offering to performers outside of your town. If it's so expensive, why go? Or what are some things you can get? Often you'll get automatic tickets to the other night. So if you're performing on a Saturday, and if there's a show on a Thursday, Friday, usually you have free access to those shows as well because you're already in the festival. Some of the good things about festivals that people love is you really get to network and you get to connect with so many people across the globe. Even if there's people who you might know from another city who you don't get to go to see often, when you see them at festivals, it's another way for you to reconnect and have that little family reunion if there's a festival you just happen to know a lot of people at, and it's fantastic. And also it's a fantastic opportunity for you to see other styles of burlesque and see different scenes, because every scene in burlesque is going to be incredibly unique, whether it's your own local scene, whether you're going to somewhere like Vancouver or Victoria or Seattle. Even though those are all in the Pacific Northwest, every scene is incredibly unique and different. It gets to inspire you with things that you want to bring back to your local scene, or you get to share pieces of your local scene with people who might not have been to your town. And in that, you get to see a whole bunch of diverse experience levels and styles. It's not only about what different scenes bring, but also what different performers bring, including yourself. Often there's a huge misconception that for festivals you have to be performing for a certain amount of time and you have to be at a certain caliber, but really you get to see that blend of people who might be in their first festival, who have been performing for a couple of years or maybe 6 months. I know people who've been in lots of festivals after a few months, and it is an amazing opportunity if you are not able to see that usually. A couple other things that some people are a little bit intimidated about with festivals: they can be expensive, so that is a very, very valid concern. And because of that, burlesque festivals are not always accessible. They're not always accessible financially or physically. Some people are very, very introverted, and being surrounded by a bunch of people they don't know can be a huge stimulating experience for a lot of people if you're not used to that. For myself personally, I used to be incredibly introverted until my first year of BurlieCon and Burlesque Hall of Fame. I attended both by myself with nobody I knew. I stayed in my own hotel room. It really, really pushed me out of my comfort zone. I understand that feeling of panic, and I definitely stayed in my hotel rooms a couple of times after I got ready for an event because I didn't feel like I was ready to be there or like I belonged, even though I paid money to just watch the Burlesque Hall of Fame. Everyone is there for different reasons, and everyone's there to connect and be supportive of each other. It can still be incredibly intimidating. It can be intimidating, but I really encourage you to apply anyways and try it out, because you really don't know what you're capable of until you try it. And if that is something that is definitely not interesting to you, you need to do what's right for you and what you're ready for. When you're ready to push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're ready to do that, then absolutely, I think you should apply anyways, even if you're not sure about your own skill level. Again, it's going to just give you experience into applying and what that feels like. You see a wide variety of talent and performance, and it is so inspiring seeing what different communities are able to do with burlesque when they bring their teams together and when they bring performers together. I adore festivals so much. And if you wonder what some of those festivals are, I'm going to have some of my favorite festivals and other ones that I'm really a fan of and I like to watch for often down in my video description box down below. There's definitely a lot of festivals that go on, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You're going to find out the more that you do burlesque, the more you immerse yourself in our universe, in our world. There's gonna be times when you might feel lost or feel like it's okay to apply to a specific festival. If you have any comments, thoughts about festivals, things that you think are really important to know, I would love to see what you have to say down below. And otherwise, I really look forward to seeing you next time, and I really look forward to seeing you on a festival stage. Bye!